This is the Bambu Lab P2S. It is my first 3D printer, and I bought it to answer one simple question. Does this thing actually belong next to a laser? Or did I just buy myself a very expensive way to make plastic boats? Now, I was skeptical. I didn't buy this thing because I wanted to print dragons all day, right? Nothing against dragons. Dragons are pretty cool. But the real reason I bought it is that I kept running into little workflow gaps there in the shop. Not huge problems, just those small moments where you need something very specific. Something that doesn't really need to be laser cut and probably doesn't exist there at the local hardware store. So that's the part that actually made me curious. Could a 3D printer help me make the little pieces around the laser workshop better? And after a few weeks with this thing, I think I finally get why laser people end up with this 3D printer sitting next to their lasers. Before we go further, I want to make something very clear. I paid for this printer myself. I can tell you, Bambu Lab has absolutely no idea who I am. This is not a sponsorship, not a review unit. I went back and forth on this for many months. Did I need it or just want it? And I think that hesitation is why this video exists in the first place. Because I know a lot of laser people are probably exactly where I was. Curious, interested, but not completely convinced yet. So let me give you some context. I spent months researching whether a 3D printer was even for me. The appeal was obvious. Freedom. The ability to make custom parts within the size limits of the printer, and of course the limits of my own skills. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized that a 3D printer is not just for toys or little figures or decorative prints, right? A lot of people are using them to make actual shop tools. Jigs, holders, storage, small parts that actually make the work easier. So that caught my attention. I think one of the most difficult parts was actually choosing the machine. The 3D printer market right now is packed. New brands, new machines, new features. Everybody claiming theirs is the one to buy. But I already knew what kind of experience I wanted. I wanted something similar to my xTool S1. Something that mostly just works. And yes, I can see some of you guys rolling your eyes right now. But listen, I don't mind learning. I don't mind doing the maintenance. You know that I don't mind understanding the machine. I just don't want to spend my days under the hood there, tinkering or troubleshooting every 5 minutes. And every time I researched printers, I kept landing back on Bambu Lab. The decision came down to the same questions I always tell people to ask themselves when they're buying lasers. What do you actually want to make? How big are those projects? What materials do you want to work with? What budget actually makes sense? And how much time, space, patience, and learning am I willing to commit to this? And eventually I landed on the P2S. Anyway, by the time I finally decided, I had the credit card in hand, the thing was back order. Of course. That's when the wife looked at me and she said, "That is a sign right there." And as usual, I just ignored the sign, respectfully. I added my name to the list, paid what I needed to pay. In the meantime, I bought filaments, a couple tools. Filaments are basically those little plastic strands the printer melts, and that's what I used to build the parts. Right, so then after I bought a couple of things, I just waited. A couple of weeks later, the printer showed up, and then it sat under my desk unopened for a couple of weeks. Right there. It was just bad timing. I was deep in engraving stone coasters at that time, deep into that rabbit hole. And yes, that hurt. I didn't like to see it there accumulating dust under that table. So eventually, one night, way too late, I finally unboxed the thing. The wife joined in. She was super curious as to why I waited so long to open it. I'm sure she thought there was something wrong with it. The setup was surprisingly straightforward. The instructions were very clear. Everything in the box had a place, and setup steps were easy to follow. We finished setting it up way too late to actually print something that night. So the next morning, I was ready to print the mythical Benchy. So Benchy is basically the little test boat every new 3D printer owner prints first. I don't know. It looks like if you buy a 3D printer nowadays, there's a legally required boat involved. So before printing Benchy, the machine actually wanted me to run a calibration test. Coming from the laser world, I expected a whole process. But surprisingly, it took a click or two, and then the machine handled most of it. Done. And then I sent Benchy to the printer, and the first thing I noticed was the speed. This thing moves. A couple of times while I was filming, I jumped because the print head there flew past me. Fighter jet speed. The second thing I noticed was the noise, or rather, the lack of it. Now, yes, you hear it. It's still a machine, but it was nowhere near as loud as I expected, though. Some of my lasers are much louder. The third thing I noticed was the smell. Not toxic, not terrible, not burnt plastic exactly, just the smell. I'm not going to pretend and tell you here there's zero smell. It's not like running a laser, though, but it's still a machine melting plastic in a room. So for now, I'm just treating it the same way I treat most workshop tools. A lot of common sense, keep air moving, and just pay attention. And that's when I was telling the wife, that's when the experience became real, you know? A couple of moments ago, this thing was on my screen. It was just a file on my screen. Now it's sitting in my hand with weight, texture, an obvious shape. And that is a weirdly cool feeling, though. The wife asked, does it float? I said no, but then I thought, let me check. And of course, people have made floating benches, giant benches, and oversized versions there because, you know, the internet can't seem to leave any tiny boat alone. And after that, the printing madness began. You know, as every new 3D printer owner seems to do, I immediately went crazy. I printed all them mandatory first prints. So we started with the Benchy, we printed the poop chute, obviously. And yes, that really is what people call it. For those of you guys unfamiliar with the 3D printer terminology, right? During the startup and filament changes, the 3D printer basically purchased extra filament out the back, which means the printer, pardon my French, literally poops plastic. Science. I also printed a scraper. The metal ones can be pretty dangerous in the hands of a newbie. I printed some very useful filament clips, a side-mounted tool organizer, very much needed, and little boxes there to hold reusable desiccant balls inside the AMS. Those are little moisture-absorbing beads. They help keep the filament dry while it sits there in the AMS and that multi-filament system there. And because I was now fully committed to the life, I named my printer Filamentino. And of course, I downloaded a nameplate and it came out way cooler than I expected. I'm very proud of it. And then the printer escaped the original shop-only plan that I had. I think this happens to everyone. At first, you tell yourself, this is for the workshop. Then you start printing a remote holder, some much-needed cable organizers, a phone stand. That one was for the shop, though. A pretty rugged storage box, a planter, or two, of course, a much-needed coffee scoop and a measuring cup, and a little toy for the kids. And before long, the printer is not a shop tool anymore. It becomes the machine that everybody in the house suddenly has ideas for. Now, at this point, I start noticing something, though. 3D printing is dangerous. And I don't mean because of the machine, right? It is because once you realize you can make little useful things, that printer slowly starts invading your life. And that was pretty cool because it totally changed how I looked at the printer. It wasn't just about printing fun stuff. I think it was about being able to make useful little things there on demand. An easy quality of life improvement. And once that clicked here at home, it made even more sense to bring that same type of thinking back into the laser workflow. Printing stuff for the house is a lot of fun. Printing accessories for the printer is also a lot of fun. But I bought this thing to see if I could actually support the work I already do there in the shop. Could I make setup easier? Could it make small batch jobs cleaner and faster? And that is where the printer actually had to prove itself. the first laser-related thing I printed was this little handle for the xTool S1 module. Such a tiny little thing, but I really like it. See, like many of you guys, I normally just grab the module itself or the rail as I'm trying to move that laser head around. And every once in a while, I think, one day I'm absolutely going to break something doing this. I originally wanted to print the version that screws into the module. It has a little handle, but I didn't have the right screws for it. So I printed this simpler version instead and loved it. I went for the reddest red I could find, and it works great. And this is the perfect example of what I mean by tiny improvements. This little handle, this print is not life-changing, but it totally improves the experience, though. That's how shop upgrades usually happen. One small improvement at a time. Then I printed this alignment ruler for the honeycomb. I used to use a metal square, which always felt a little uncomfortable inside the laser. And now I have a dedicated alignment tool specifically made for the machine. Logo and everything. Nothing flashy, but I use it. Then, of course, came the coaster jig, and that one was a no-brainer. Jigs are nothing new. The difference here is access. I didn't have to buy a jig or make one out of scraps. I found one made for this kind of work, printed it, and now coasters, square or round, they just drop in place with the same spacing every time. Then I found an aluminum business card jig. I started with a single card jig just to test it, and then I realized why stop at one. So I printed the 6-card version. And for us laser guys, that's where it starts to pay off immediately. And by the way, if this kind of practical laser workshop content is useful to you, consider liking the video and subscribing. It tells YouTube that there are more laser people out there who might be curious about this 3D printing rabbit hole. And I thank you. So this was the part that I was actually watching closely. What surprised me was not that the printer made a jig. The surprise was that the jig was very accurate, enough to trust it. And of course, then I started printing, this universal pen jig. Some of my favorite prints have been the super thin hold-down clamps. They're incredibly simple, but the geometry is pretty clever. That angle shape pushes downward, and it holds the material really, really tight. They totally work. I tested them on a very warped piece of plywood, and they held it down there very nice and firm. It was beautiful. This one is one of the coolest things about the 3D printing community. Some people out there are really smart. The amount of thought and creativity people put into these little tools is very impressive. And the fact that many of them people just share this freely. Files, photos, instructions, troubleshooting advice. I think is one of the best parts of this entire maker world. Now, to be fair, not everything went perfectly. And I think that's important to talk about also. One of my first failures happened while I was printing this little positioning pins for the xTool S1, one of those calibration markers. The idea was actually really clever. These little pins with a shaft that drops into the honeycomb and that flat round top to hold that marker, that sticker, perfectly in place. Except I completely missed the fact that the design needed supports. Supports are those little temporary pieces that the printer builds. They go underneath the part to hold it up while it prints. So I printed them standing upright. Everything looked fine there for a while. Then I think it was halfway through the print, chaos. Pins falling over, a lot of filament spaghetti there everywhere. Half the pieces laying flat on the plate. Just a nightmare. The rest of the fails were mostly cosmetic details or things that I could live with. I either expected them or there were little details, hidden details that you really have to be looking for them to notice. And of course, if you're expecting perfection all the time, I think you probably misunderstood what this kind of 3D printing is all about. The printer is basically melting these strands of plastic and building that design there layer by layer. So eventually you will see layer lines, seams, and surface imperfections. Anyway, that was kind of like my beginner reminder that downloading the file is only part of the job. Because one thing I learned pretty quickly is that not all designs or prints are equal. As most people, some designers put a tremendous amount of effort into optimization, print orientation, supports, tolerances, and these instructions. Others, they have really nice preview pictures. And as a beginner, you don't always know the difference. Another thing is I totally underestimated print times. Some prints finish within what I would say is a reasonable time, right? 45 minutes, 1 hour. And then others just casually ask for about 10 hours, 11 hours of your life, like it's totally normal. And of course, I had them moments when I thought, I'll download this quick and I'll just print it before dinner. And of course, the printer and the software were like, yeah, I don't think so. And another thing that you need to consider and that matters a lot are materials. And of course, you also have a learning curve there. PLA, PETG, TPU. These are just different types of filament, different types of plastic. PLA is easy to work with. PETG is tougher, stronger, right? And then TPU is very flexible. And other things that will quickly become part of your day-to-day are, for example, moisture control, being mindful of storage, drying your filament, ventilation. And you will eventually start buying storage totes, humidity meters, vacuum bags, desiccant, spare nozzles, tools. The printer will slowly whisper at you, you know what else we need? It's doing that to me all the time. And of course, it reminds me a lot of what goes on with lasers too. Because the deeper you go into lasers, the more you realize the machine is in total control. Same thing here. So is a 3D printer worth adding to a laser workshop? For me, yes. Totally yes. But not because every laser owner all of a sudden needs to become a 3D printing expert. I think it's worth it because it solves problems that the laser was never meant to solve. The laser, for the most part, makes beautiful flat things. The printer makes useful shaped things. And when you put them together, your workshop suddenly becomes customized specifically for you. And that is the part I didn't fully understand before. The P2S didn't make me less of a laser guy. If anything, it made the laser side of the shop more flexible. Because now when I need a custom part or some odd little piece that supports the work, I have another way to make it. And now I'm really curious to see where this whole new rabbit hole goes from here, right? Listen, if you already use a 3D printer in your laser workflow there, let me know in the comments what you're making with it. What has actually been useful for you. And again, I just wanted to thank everybody for supporting the channel through Patreon and YouTube memberships. It really does help me keep experimenting, testing, and making videos like this. If you want to check out any of the gear, accessories, or some of the prints we talked about, I will leave the links down in the description. And with that, I thank you very much for spending some time with me here in the shop. I'm Alex, and this is Severna Builds. I'll see you in the next one.